Hi, everybody. Welcome again to the third in a series of 4 programs on the sound of Japanese music. I'm Brenda Jordan with the Pitt NCTA, and we want to express our thanks to the University of Pittsburgh National Consortium for Teaching About Asia and to our partners at the Japan America Society of Pennsylvania for co-sponsoring this program. I'm very pleased to introduce Dr. Yuko Eguchi Wright, our presenter for this third in a 4-part series on Japanese music. Yuko is a native of Tokyo, Japan, and she received her PhD in ethnomusicology in 2016 from the University of Pittsburgh, where she currently teaches. For her dissertation research, she studied Japanese geishas music and dance, called Kouta and Koutaburi, and received the master title of Kouta Kasugatoyo Yoshiyu in 2012. Yuko has performed and lectured on Japanese traditional arts at multiple conferences, including the Society for Ethnomusicology and the Association for Asian Studies, and at various colleges and universities. And she has a website that will be in one of the first parts of her slides, so please visit her at yukoeguchi.com. So I'm going to turn it back over to you, Yuko. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Brenda Sensei. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in and participating in this lecture. I have quite a lot of stuff to share with you all. So I'm going to try to be a little bit quicker, and especially this is recorded. So you can, if something is not clear, please do watch the video later on. But I would like to first say thank you to the Department of East Asian Languages and Literature, and also Asian Studies Center at the University of Pittsburgh, and then also JASP for your continued support. I wouldn't be here without your support and help. So thank you, and thank you to all who are tuning in here today. Okay, so let me share my screen. Here is my slides, and maybe just wanted to let you know Japanese names are going to be said and written in Japanese way, which is the family name start first, and then first name last. And then also I have some of the video clips, and I hope you'll be able to see it and hear it well. And even if you miss something, I put the links underneath of the video, so you'll be able to click on it when I share the PDF files with you later on. So here is the Strings Revolution, History and Music of Shamisen and Geisha lecture. So this is kind of like mashing the 3 or 4 lectures into one. So it's gonna be a lot of details, a lot of historical stuff, and I hope you can enjoy, and at the same time, I hope I don't overwhelm you with this. Okay, so as you can see on the screen, whenever I give a lecture about Japanese music history, I kind of give you an overview, and then each music and genre, I spend a couple of lectures on it. But we don't really have time to do that today, so it's kind of a compacted version here. So looking back in 1,000 years of Japanese history, the first music you'll see is the gagaku, that's coming from China, and then it's a court music. Royal family and aristocratic members were the ones who were enjoying that. And also in the 10th century, we got biwa. The instrument was actually came to Japan with the gagaku music instruments, but it kind of split into the solo chorus. And then 12th century koto, that we had Dr. Ann Prescott gave the lecture on it last month. And also it just moved into the 14th century. We have no theater performance, and the 16th century there's shakuhachi performance. Our colleague Devin Tips, he did the lecture on it last month as well. And then here comes the shamisen that I would like to talk to you about, and instrument that really revolutionized the Japanese sound and music itself. And then that really affected the musical and theatrical scene of kabuki in 17th century. And this is kind of the time when the geisha came in and then started to perform in the private sector. So these two are going to be the main thing that I will talk to you about. And obviously, geisha's history can trace back to the female performers, which is I'm talking about 1,000 years ago, so which is much older than the shamisen history. So let me talk to you about the geisha history first. Looking back in the Kojiki, which is the record of ancient matters, which is the oldest documents remaining in Japan, which was written in 712, the year. And there is a record about this lady, goddess, Amano-uzume or Ame-no-uzume. She is kind of credited as like as the prototype of Shinto shrine maiden. We call it Miko. And she basically performed really dancing and singing and then kind of seductive moves and kind of erotic dancing in front of the sun goddess who was hiding in the cave because she was angry at her brother's rampage, really bad acts. And so they were in, kind of, what do I say? They were trying to restore the bad and evil spirits and under control, because the sun is away, there's no crops, a lot of bad spirits are coming out, and then they didn't know what to do. So here she comes, danced in front of the cave, in front of other gods and goddesses, and then that cheered them, and everybody was applauding, and they were enjoying, and then sun goddess say, hey, what's going on outside? I'm the greatest goddess, and then why is everybody cheering and laughing? And then so she peeked out, and then there's the god of strength who pulled her out of this cave and put the rope around immediately so that she won't be able to go in there anymore. So all the happiness and then security restored afterwards. So the Amano-uzume was the one who brought the peace on earth at the time. And this prototype of Shinto shrine maiden, she was the one to kind of mediate between the gods and goddesses and to the human world. And then this music was used as a communication between these humans and gods. And then she was offering her food and drinks and music and the dancing, all those entertainments and good words. And this is where the kotohogi words coming from. That means that you speak of the good words to dedicate for the god and goddesses so that they feel better about themselves. And then meaning that you can bring the good fortune from the gods and goddesses by doing so. And you can see this at the theater performance in No and Kabuki. And at the beginning, at the opening of the performance, they usually do this kotohogi thing to say the good spirits and words and bring them in the luck. And also she was actually offering some body to basically remedy their fatigues and to the gods. So she is kind of all-encompassing entertainer back then. And then afterwards, the Miko, Shinto shrine maiden appears. They are the servants of the gods. And then they perform the ritual dances and songs. And then they usually use the bells to kind of chimes during the dance, accents their dance. And at the same time, that sound has a power to repel all those bad spirits away. And then this is the video from my brother's wedding at the Meiji Shrine a couple of years ago. And then please listen to her bells as well as the flute and then wagon. It's the 6-string koto. These are kind of considered as an indigenous Japanese instruments. And so here. So as you saw in this video, she is ringing the bell, but her movement is very static, very slow, and just to the kind of horizontal move. And there's no jumping down or twirling, not much, just a very slow move. So that's what I want you to keep remembering. And recently there is a movie called Kimi no Nawa, which means your name. I think that's the English title. And then main character was actually the Miko herself, the Shinto shrine maiden. So this is something that you can check it out with your students if you're teaching at the elementary school or middle school. It's a very, very good movie. I really like it. So anyways, so moving on into the late 12th century. There's a lady performer called shirabyoshi, literally means white rhythm woman. They were the former shrine maidens, but they started to kind of branch out their business, meaning that they started to perform at the court, royal aristocratic families' place. And then there are many love affairs happening in those Heian literatures with the high noblemen, with these ladies, beautiful ladies, but they are dressed up in men's attire. As you can see, she's wearing the hat and then long trousers, and then she's actually holding a sword. And that's kind of, some scholars saying that was the formal attire to be able to go into the court. So maybe there are some discussed, this is the cross-dressing. And then some people say this big cross-dressing has a special magical power. So they did that, but who knows? But this is the unique feature of this female white rhythm women's dressing performance. And they were reciting poems and then doing that kind of static and circular, very slow movement dancing as they recite and holding the fan. And this is called mai. Mai is those static dance, more to the ground and then not to the up and down. And so they started to kind of move around, travel around in town, and then perform at the ports to ports from one town to town. And so here it's the Shirabyoshi Mai. It's kind of a recreation of this, how it looked like the white rhythm woman's dance. And so they recite the poems while dancing, and then their music is actually coming from imayo, that means now style. So it's a court music back then. I'm talking about, 1,000 years ago. So here it is. Okay, so it was very static, very slow, and it's elegant. That's how the dancing style was. So here comes the 17th century Okuni. She was the former Izumo shrine maiden, and she started to travel around and started to perform. And this is a time that the Japan nation itself, there was a long period of war happening before them, but right around this time, the Tokugawa Ieyasu kind of united, or the kind of made everything into peace, and then settled down and started to create the new capital, new government system in the Tokyo area, then called Edo. And so she was coming out and trying to celebrate this peaceful time. And so she was performing town to town, but one performance that was made it popular was that she danced by the Kamo River in Kyoto, I'm sorry, the old capital in right here. And then she started to dance very erotic and suggestive, and then up and down, lots of motions dance. And she is credited as the Kabuki theater founder. And here is the Okuni Kabuki Byobu. It's the kind of a paintings that you can see where Okuni is. She's right here and performing on the stage. And then stage are kind of like a temporal stage format. So they can collapse it and move it to somewhere else. It's kind of like a circus or a carnival style. They can do that anywhere they want. And then, so she was doing this up and down, a lot of more active motions. And then if you look at her carefully, here, she is, again, cross-dressing. She's wearing the men's attire. She's holding a sword, and she is wearing, I don't think you can see well in this picture particularly, but she was wearing the rosary necklace, the Christian rosary necklace. So that was the time that Christianity was coming into Japan, and then it was kind of fashionable to wear those Christian-made rosary. And so it's a really stylish and a really eccentric, and she was performing the role of the lord in town, really dangerous guys in town. And so she was very attractive, and then all the audiences went really wild. So she was kind of like a Lady Gaga, 400 years ago. And then let's take a look at who is backing her up in the music wise. So here is a guy holding the hue and then flute, and then next guy is the kotsuzumi and the hourglass drum, and then otsuzumi next to him, the big hourglass drum, and then taiko drum. So these four instruments are actually coming from the No Performance Theater, which was developed and flourished in the 14th century. But you can see the musicians here. There's flute, there's kotsuzumi, the hourglass drum, another hip drum, and then here's a small drum. So those four are the kind of basic music. And then the melody was provided by hue, the flute alone. And then what's interesting, the revolution that I'm talking about, is this is going to be totally erased and changed and developed. Here it is, the Yujo Kabuki. So when Okuni, the Lady Gaga, was touring around other towns and capitals, this ladies from the nearby pleasure quarter next to the theater district, they kind of swept in and then started to perform the Okuni style dancing and singing. And so you can see this, the ladies dancing in the, again, cross-dressing men's attire around this lady here. And then, so everybody was watching, they were going crazy because these ladies were wearing those newly imported silk satin kimono that they've never seen. Those are really shiny, and then they were wearing the perfume by Agarwood perfume. It smells so good, and so they were like heavenly ladies performing. So it's kind of like a Spice Girls. Sorry, I'm kind of late old with those pop scenes, but anyway, so those beautiful ladies on stage performing, and if you look carefully at the center, boom, here is the shamisen. So remember that Okuni, she was only backed up by flute and then drums, and that was it. But here they incorporate this shamisen, and this is the time the shamisen became, still, it was rare, but more accessible. It's still expensive, but started to be incorporated into the theatrical performances. And here is the kind of a proof that they incorporate this newly imported instruments. And then you can see the rows of ladies here playing the shamisen as well. So, but this was banned because these ladies, they made the audiences so crazy and wild, and all the audiences, they wanted to make these beautiful ladies of their own. So they say, oh, she's mine, oh, she's mine, and then started to be a lot of fights between those audiences. And then so the government stepped in, especially it led to more of a prostitutions, lots of prostitution happening between the audiences and then the ladies on the stage. So they said, enough is enough, ladies, you're out. So since this time, women are not allowed to be on stage. That's how it started. And it's still, this tradition is carried on now. So it's banned. So moving on to geisha history, it's in the about mid 1600s to mid 1700s. There is a ladies called tayu. They are the high-ranking playful woman. That's kind of literal means. They worked at the Yoshiwara licensed pleasure quarter in Edo. So the capital had moved from the old capital in Kyoto to the west to the east of the Edo, now Tokyo. And that's where the government is, and a lot of important figures is, and all the politics going on. And there is a pleasure district, licensed pleasure district, formed in the downtown district in Edo, the Tokyo. And then that's called Yoshiwara. And then there are ladies who are very, very highly cultured and well-educated ladies entertaining the men in town, especially the men with the wealth. Because the ladies are pushed towards the more into the private sect. They're not allowed to perform on the stage anymore in the public. So these ladies were getting a lot of educations, art trainings, and then they became an idol of from the many girls. So these are like Katy Perry or something, like, pop ladies then. And they were offering these food and banquet style, food and sake, drinkings, parties, and then they were playing music and performing dancing, but that included the sexual entertainments, just like the old time that the prototype of Miko, the Amano Uzume did, kind of, that's part of the offerings towards the god. And so, for humans, if it's good for the gods, then why don't we recreate it for humans? So it's kind of offered for the humans as well. So I want to ask you, which lady do you think is geisha and which is the oiran? So obviously I do this in the class, so usually I get the people, I ask people to raise their hands. But anyways, the notable feature to distinguish which one is geisha or which one is oiran is where to look, what to look. And I hope you guessed one to the right. The geisha is to the right. And let's compare what she's wearing. So the oiran is a type of tayu, the highly cultured ladies who worked for the pleasure quarter in the Yoshiwara district and later on. But you can see that she has lots of layers, lots of decorated kimonos. She's wearing a high heel sandal, and then also lots of hair ornaments. And then I don't think you can see well, but she's wearing the obi, the sash in the front. And then geisha here, it's more wearing the simple kimono, not much going on with the hair here. And then she's especially holding a shamisen. And this is the biggest difference between these pleasure quarter ladies of oiran to the pleasure quarter working geisha. So let me tell you, geisha means literally, gei means art or skill, and sha means person. So they are art person or artist. That's what it is, nothing more. And this artist, this gei of geisha, the art, includes dancing, singing, playing music, meaning shamisen, and not just that, they play flute and also the drums, and then many other instruments, the Japanese instruments used in the theater. And then also they do tea ceremony, flower arrangements, they can read the poetry, do the calligraphy, all sorts of arts. This is included. And so they are really the artists, but not sexual entertainment. The reason is that is that the oiran, they were in the licensed pleasure quarter, and then they were not allowed to go outside of their quarter. And so meaning that all the pop music and dancing was going on in the theater district, and then they were not allowed to go see those. And then, you know, the only way that they can learn those pop music, pop dancing, is to go see it directly, but they couldn't do that. So they needed somebody to specialize in that pop music and pop dances. And so here comes the geisha, who took up that career as just simply focusing on the this dancing and singing and music. And then they have license to go outside of the quarter and to learn those and come back and then perform it in the pleasure quarter to entertain the guests there. So they had a strict rule of not wearing that many hair ornaments, make it simple. Also kimono, make it simple. And then wearing the sash is gonna be backside tying, because tying the obi in front, it's easy to, you know, untie it and to basically be naked. And so that was the career and business for the oiran. They left those sexual arts to the oiran, and then leaving those artistic musical arts and dancing arts, those are left only for the geisha. So she's not wearing the sash in the front, it's in the back. And especially if you have to play shamisen, tying the sash in front it's in the way. You can't really play it well, so you have to tie it in the back. So here is the woodblock prince ukiyo-e. It's Kitagawa Utamaro, geisha walking through the snow at night. And if you look at carefully, here is the box, and he is called Hakoya. He's kind of a supporter assistant. So whenever the geisha goes to work, he's the one who assists her to carry that box. And what's in that box? Well, it's the shamisen. And that's the prized possession and then prized symbol of the geisha that shows that she is licensed. She's legit to perform shamisen and dance in front of the customers, because she is in the contract saying that I am not selling my body, no sex whatsoever. I am selling the arts. So that's the prized possession. And then so when you look at the woodblock prints, please look for where the sash is and how the kimono dress or ornament is, and also if she's wearing a shamisen or not. And then you will be able to tell, okay, this is geisha and this is oiran. So later on, oiran actually became obsolete, because the geisha started to master the arts, and then they only offer the arts, and then entertainment wise, the audience, the customers wanted to see that more, and then the oiran became just a sole prostitutes in a way. So their artistic level went down, and then what's left for them is to just the body, and so that's why they were gone afterwards. So let's move on to the history of shamisen. It's kind of difficult to shift one to the other, but this is where I think it's a good point to, you know, make a direction to the shamisen. So here, in 1574, the shamisen is recorded as arriving through China, Korea, through the, you know, via the Silk Road, and it came to this little island in Ryukyu Islands, and then it made its way to Osaka or Kyoto region. That was right around this in the mid or a little bit later 1500s. And when the instruments came to Ryukyu, the Okinawa, this instrument was first, originally it's the Chinese sanshin. It's a 3-string lute. And then it was adopted in Okinawa, but not much changes was made. And it's still using the snake skin for the body parts, and then using the pick like this right here. And then so they are very similar in a way. But when this Okinawan sanshin, when it arrived to the mainland Japan, that's when the Japanization, the changes was made to the instruments. The first person to pick up this newly imported instrument was the biwa players, the blind monks. and then you can see him here. And then they were performing this big lute, and then telling the story of the Heike, the Tyler families, up and coming, and rise and falls. And it was a storytelling singing style that they were doing, and they were the first ones to pick up this instrument. And then they said, oh, this is an interesting instrument, but I'm not used to playing with the those pick, so why don't we use the big plectrum like we're using? So here is the little changes made. And then also the snake skin, that big snake were not available, fortunately, in the mainland Japan. And then so it had to be replaced using the natural and available resources on the mainland Japan. And then so it was replaced to the cat or a dog skin. And a cat is supposed to be, thought as producing a better sound than the dog skin. And I'm so sorry that there are cat and dog lovers out there that was the only resources available back then suitable for this instrument. So the cat, to remedy that, or to say sorry and to show your appreciation, there are many places that enshrines this cat who served their life to make the beautiful music. And so this is called Nekozuka, and you can find it at the Matsunoki Daimyojin Shrine in Osaka, or many other places that you can see. So this is the Nekozuka, but it kind of looks like the shape of the shamisen body here. So another changes made is the adding the sawari, meaning touch or obstacle in Japanese, which creates this buzzing and humming sound. And then so what happens is that there is this bridge, metal bridge here, and this thickest, the big string is actually not on this bridge. It's on this, it's directly attached to the body of this shamisen next. So it sounds like this. Hear the really buzz, that sound is created by this big, the thickest first string vibrates and resonate the body of this instrument. And as opposed to the second and third string, it's more clear because it's resting up on top of the bridge, metal rod. And so this is another feature that came from the biwa instrument. People thought maybe the aesthetic wise that it was not enough to have a clear sound. So kind of included this, add to this buzzing sound. It's like a snare drum. So shamisen means three taste string, or three strings basically. Earlier it was the snake skin, but it was replaced by the cat or dog skin, which is very expensive. And then it can be taken apart like this, 1, 2, 3 parts. But the geisha, they don't carry like this way. They carried it just long way, and because they are legit and licensed and they want to show their pride. But then there are illegal, unlicensed geisha out there who wanted to hide their identity by putting them into 3 parts and then put it into the bag and then just kind of sneak, into some tea houses to work. But anyways, so it's a portability part. And then the plectrum, they use ivory, tortoise shells, but those are the, really not available materials any longer. And then especially ivory, it looks very beautiful. And then some people say it's purely the aesthetic. It's just the appearance part. It doesn't really make much difference with the sound wise. And a lot of tortoise shell bachi, the plectrum, is used for tsugaru shamisen and others. And but now I'm using the wood for the plectrum and then also the bridge. And I don't actually use a plectrum. I'll tell you why later. So characteristics of shamisen. So in the shamisen score, there is one called bunkafu, but I'll talk to you later. This kandokoro means pitch spot. So each spot produces each sound and a corresponding sound right here. And some people put a little sticker here that has a number on it. And then as you practice, you can look at the number. But I didn't learn that way. I basically learned solely by ear. My teacher produced some sound and I just imitated, and then that's that. And so as you can see, there's no frets like guitar. And so the pitch spot is very hard to find. But in a good part is that it can produce a variety of pitches by using a sliding technique. So it's like this. That sliding tones, some pitches are called microtones. Those are the tones or pitches that doesn't exist on the keyboard. And so those are basically, available for the musicians to make, and then which helps for the performers to make more of expressive, dramatic emotions, and then sound, create sound effects for the rain and then sound of the wind and something like that. And so that's that. And then another characteristics is that, as Dr. Prescott talked about this in her lecture, it's the kata. Kata means form. So when you perform the shamisen, again, it started out with blind monks playing. So if you're blind, you can't really see this pitch spot. And so just naturally, the way you perform is like this, it's fixed. And so your eye has to be looking down 45 degrees angle to the front. And then the neck has to be 45 degrees to your eyelid here. And then so that's the proper way of holding the shamisen. And then it takes a long, long time to master it. And then this is the picture of me and my teacher here, and she's teaching me the kota song. And normally songs, you can put the lyrics sheet here, but it's just the lyrics. There is no score whatsoever, no tunes, no rhythms written out. It's just the lyrics, just the words. And then when you have a shamisen lesson, the same thing. And especially that you're not supposed to use any scores. So you just have to sit across from your teacher and imitate whatever that she is doing, which is not easy, I have to say. And so it takes a long time to master playing shamisen. And so some people thought, okay, this is not really good thing for me to learn the shamisen. So here comes the shamisen's scores, notation, bunkafu. So you can see that this top one is the third string, and then middle one is the mid-thick second string, and then bottom one is the first string, the thick one. And so the lowest sound to the bottom, and then highest sound to the top. And then you can see the number of the pitch spot. But this is like a mnemonic device, so you're not bringing this to some performances or at the lesson place. And tunings of shamisen, there are three major tunings. One is the honchoshi, B-E-B, it sounds solemn. And then second one is niagari, and the second pitch goes a little bit higher and sounds happier. And then these are the tunings used for a lot of folk tunes. And sansagari is the last third notes down. It sounds a little bit more melancholic. And these pitches are not fixed, as I said. So so the pitch distance is relative. And so based on the singer's voice, how high or low the voice is, you can tune in. So it doesn't have to be B, E, B always. It can be A, D, A, and so forth. It can be lower or higher. And then this string is made out of silk, and it's very, very sensitive to the humidity. So whenever you see the performers on stage, they are, literally doing this all the time. That means that they are tuning as they play the music, which is not easy to do. Just compared to the violin playing, you play violin, and at the beginning of the piece you tune, and that's it, right? But playing this instrument is much trickier. That you have to, as you go, you have to tune in because it changes, fluctuate a lot. So bachi when they play the shamisen, especially folk tunes and also nagauta, they hit the plectrum against the body surface. And so it sounds melodic, but at the same time, it's percussive, bam, 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 like that. So that's something that you will hear later on. And then there are three, or there are actually more, but major ones, three different thickness of the this neck. When it's thick and middle, and then thin, and then it depends on which genres of the music you play. The shamisen, you use a different shamisen for that. And then these shamsens are used for kabuki theater, bunraku puppet theater, a lot of other theatrical forms that kind of came after the usual kabuki. And so here is one of the genres is, in music-wise, it can be categorized into two. One is the katarimono, it's like a more of a narrative songs, often called jodori, so you're storytelling as you sing. And so it's a melodic, it's like a sprechstimme, so like speaking, talking, singing. And then so one of them is the popular one, it's a gidayu bushi, which is used in the puppet theater. And here is a Takemoto Gidayu. He's the very famous and the first one to kind of develop this musical style. And they use a thick neck shamisen. And normally these singers are really low and husky and really growling, and then have a pouring emotion as they perform. So here it is.
町の佐渡と平地の
Okay, I want to show you more, but we have to get going. So as you can see, it was a very low voice, husky, really nasally and strong, singing style. And the other one is the utamono or utaimono, the melodic songs. And these are the style used in the kabuki theater and also the ozashiki in the kota, the geisha's music. And here it is. And they are using the thin neck so that they can play pitches very fast music. And then also there are singers to the left. And so shamisen players and singers, there are rows of them on stage behind the actors. And that's how the kabuki performance happens. Excuse me. So this, as you saw, there are rows of musicians in the back. And then, but this particular piece was coming from the no performance. And so that's why you see those kotozumi and hourglass drum and a flute and the same kind of musicians, ensembles in the back. But the main ones are the shamisen who plays the main melody for the performance itself. So another thing is the folk music, minyo. It came people think this is a pretty old tradition, but it's not quite compared to the kabuki and no. This came in around the 1870s and 80s. And then there is a movie about Mitabo. He is credited as the first founder of the Tsugaru Shamisen style. And then Takahashi Chikuzan is the one who went town to town and city to city and popularized the Tsugaru Shamisen style. But take a look at their shamisen that he's holding. It's really thick, and it's a lot of banging, bam, 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 you know, hitting the bachi, the plectrum, against the body part. So it's very percussive, lively, and strong sound. So here it is. So it's a lot of those techniques, portmanteaus, and that's vibration, and then also the trills, and it's a really difficult genres to play. And this Tsugaru Shamisen style became a popular genre. And then as you can see, these are the Yoshida brothers, who are very famous. And then he collaborates with a lot of pop music and culture. So here it is, the commercial used for the Red Bull in Japan. They are the ones who are providing the shamisen. Okay, so another one that I want you to remember, I personally like this guy better, Agatsuma Hiromitsu. He is actually the two-time champion of the youngest champion so far of the Tsugaru Shamisen competition. Every year they have this Tsugaru Shamisen competition. And he's the one who provides a lot of those kind of behind the scenes shamisen sound in the animes and movies and all. So here it is. Some of your students might know this better than I do. To-chan. To-chan!
面白くなってきたな。一丁教えてやろうぜ、サスケ。ああ。来い。
Okay, so you got the idea. Don't ask me to play that because I can't. The style is different, techniques is different, and it's difficult. So anyways, moving back to the geisha. So here is where the geisha works. It's the odashiki. So it's the exquisite cuisine. It's served, the cuisines and drinks and entertainments. It's a party place. And geisha serve as the highly trained hostess and entertainer in this party scene. And they perform lots of different genres of music, including the nagata, the music from kabuki, and also kota that I'm going to talk about after this. And also they are specialized in dancing and in singing and in nihonryo and all. So they are the entertainers to kind of make merry at the party. And here is the more contemporary scene. This ozashiki, where they work, is used for the high class and rich people because it costs a lot to ask them to provide the live music at the party. And so, and imagine you're asking, let's say, Lady Gaga to perform for your party. You know, you never know how much that cost. And so anyway, so only the politicians, company executives, those really wealthy ones were able to use this service. And they use this place as a place to negotiate their business matters, and kind of a soft negotiations happens. And so that they are there to, when it seems like the one customer to the next starts to have a fight, arguments, and that's the time they, hey, guys, you know, just calm down. Let me play you this music, and then sing for you and dance for you, and then that's how they work. So they are very like a necessitated existence at these parties, and also they're highly secretive. So they won't tell you what happened in the ozashiki. So that's why not many people, even Japanese, heard about what geisha do or did in this place because they're not supposed to talk about it. So here is kind of it might be difficult to see, but this is the system that they were following, which is the, first of all, the geisha, they are coming from, many of them are coming from the poor family in the rural area. And then the family need the money. So they send this daughter into Okiya, the geisha house. And then so she becomes kind of treated as a daughter of this house. And then in exchange, the geisha house will pay money to the family, not to buy her. It's not like that. It's a contract. So they lend the money to the family, and in exchange for this girl to receive a dancing lesson, singing lesson, shamisen lesson, and also put on a beautiful kimono and dress her up. And then so she is contracted to pay this money that her parents or family borrowed, and to pay back to the geisha house. And this is where the service occurs. So there is wealthy guys who wants to see the geisha, beautiful geisha, dance and sing and entertain at the party, and they are waiting at this tea house, machiai chaya, and then they ask the geisha house to please send such and such girl, I want this entertainment now, because the negotiations not going well, so can I have entertainment from girls? And so they go there, dance and sing and provide the service, and then they pay for that. And this money goes to the Okiya first because she has a debt to pay back for her family. And then once this debt is paid off, and then they're good to go, they're free. And then one way to do it is that wealthy patron, the customer comes along and he pays for her to pay that debt for her and to free her by marrying her. And that was kind of the custom back then. And so here comes the restaurant who provides the good food and sake, because tea house are not capable, or they weren't allowed to make lots of food that time. And so this is all called Sangyo 3 system, 3 institutions. So that was the system back then. So moving on to the kota, this is the one of the music kept and preserved and then flourished among geisha communities. And kota means small song, and it was created by Kiyomoto Oyo. She was the daughter of the Kiyomoto headmaster. Kiyomoto is the musical journals performed at the Kabuki Theater. And as I mentioned, the ladies are not allowed to be on the public stage. So even though she was very excelled in playing shamisen and singing, she wasn't allowed to be on stage. So what she did was that she taught those arts, music, all passed down from her father to her students around town. But in the meantime, the composition was only allowed by the headmaster, meaning her dad was only allowed to compose a new piece. And she said, well, I have a free time. I want to make some new music, and I'm not allowed to make the Kiyomoto style music. So why don't I create something else, a new genre, so that I'm free to compose. So she started making this short, very, very short, 1 or 2, verses, poems with the short accompaniments of the shamisen music, and this became a hit because geisha were trained in nangauta and other musical genres pieces. However, those tend to be very long, maybe 30 minutes long, 40 minutes long to finish one piece. And obviously at the party scene, everybody's drinking, and then the geisha started playing. Okay, here comes the nangauta, then go on for 30, 40 minutes, then everybody falls asleep by the end, right? So they needed somebody to play very short pieces, and then precise, and then really with lots of wit and humors, and that's the piece that they wanted to have. And so it caught on in the geisha community, and especially the Kasuga Toyo. She was the former geisha, and she became a kota teacher and then composer and professionalized in it. Born to a Japanese mother and English father, and she worked at the Asakusa, the downtown district, like a former Yoshiwara area. And then she found her own school of Kasuga School, and this is one of the biggest kota school existing. And then I'm part of her school, and then she became the Iemoto, the headmaster, the top of this whole school. And she taught, she composed hundreds of songs, and then taught many geisha along. And this kota, the lyrics is about the human relationships, especially about the cruelty of love and hard life as a geisha, but those messages are kind of hidden in really subliminally. And so you have to be paying attention to really decipher what's going on, what's the message in the songs, because in the surface, the lyrics is about pretty bird flying, hopping from one tree to the next. But that bird is actually about geisha, and then, or the patron, and the trees is about the geisha, and then so, you get the message. So there's a love affairs going on written in the bottom of the lyrics. And so there is a player and then singer. So one-on-one, it used to be just one person doing both, but nowadays it's kind of separated into the shamisen, the player, and to the singers. And there is this kakehiki, kind of pull and push between these, the performers, and mainly the guys become the singer, and then the patrons become the singer, and the shamisen provided by geisha. So this kind of unique relationship going on. And then one aesthetic concept known in this song is the iroke, the love sex atmosphere, or kind of sexiness. And so what is iroke? Liza Dalby, anthropologist, described what this iroke is one strand of hair loose in an otherwise perfect coiffure, the sidelong glance exchanged without a word between a man and a woman, and playing the shamisen with fingernails instead of the large ivory plectrum. So that possess the iroke, the sexiness. And so it's hiding between the lyrics and poses and the voice coloration and all the subtleties, very vague, and it's hard to know what's going on. And then it celebrates sex differences and not the flamboyant sexiness. So in the Western sexiness definition is usually most of focused on the sexual reproductive parts, boobs and butts. But in the Japanese sense, in the wearing kimono, the sexiness is portrayed here, the showing of the back of the neck, the nape, and also the ankle, and those not really connect to the sexual reproductive parts. So this is where the interesting part of the geisha's arts is this showing the sexy, but not this Western sexiness. It's a unique Japanese unique sexiness. And so it's more of a five senses oriented. So it's not about the visuals, but also it's in the sound and feelings and touch and the smell, all encompassing. And then it can be possessed by any genders, man, woman, who, you know, anybody can have it. And also as you age, that sexiness increases. That's the definition. And so it's kind of a really hard to grasp aesthetic. So it misleads into people thinking, okay, she's kind of the lady of the night, she's a sexy one. But all in all, this sexiness is really into the music and dance. And so that's what my dissertation is about. So when the West met geisha, this happened. In front of the Western eyes, the geisha were the, you know, highly trained hostess. So they were the first one to entertain the Westerners, foreigners, when they visited Japan in the last turn of the centuries. And then what happened was that Westerners, they didn't know what geisha do or did. And so they thought, okay, here comes the cute ladies. They must be, you know, selling the sex, you know, prostitutes. So here. So that happened. So in these postcards, as a souvenir, bringing back to the Western culture, they are, you know, kind of photographed with a breast showing or, you know, body showing. And this is not what they do. But people back then didn't understand what geisha offered. So this happened. And then that kind of culture persists into geisha equal to prostitute or, you know, sad lady of the night and such. And then in the Madame Chrysanthemum theme, and then Madame Butterfly in an opera, and then Memoir of a Geisha, that's in the still, you know, recent past, and Steven Spielberg film. And obviously the main character here, she's not even Japanese, but anyways, it's a fiction. And also geisha glam was a part of the hit, and Madonna is kind of portraying this ladies in the, you know, tied sash and then closed space and really, you know, tied down. And she wanted to show that, okay, ladies are not supposed to be not tied down, you know, we should have a freedom. And I understand that, but to look at the history, geisha are actually the first carrier woman in the Japanese business history. They made their own money. Even after they finished their geisha career, they started to teach their students. And so they were able to support themselves. So that was different. And here, Katy Perry portraying geisha, I'm not sure, but that's kind of the geisha portrayal. And here is me with my teacher. She was 88 years old, and she's a former geisha. She's 95 years old now, and she's still trying to do a concert for us. And so she's, you know, going still. So here is the music part. I'm gonna go downstairs, but before then, I'm gonna give this slides to Stephen, but when I share you, there are some quizzes that I made for you, and so that you can, or your students can take. And also there's Shamisen resources and geisha resources. And then the really good ones are these Japanology, Begin Japanology and Japanology Plus. They really explain the Japanese culture and arts very well. So this is something that you can check it out later on. So let me stop share, and then Stephen, would you mind taking over?
That's no problem.
All right.
You thought you'd all get away without taking another quiz.
No, you won't, right, Stephen?
So we have our selection of Japanese instruments. And so how about you take a look and we'll see if you can correctly identify them in chat. You can just put one and then, you know, the letter and the number, the corresponding number, and we'll see who can match up the most while we're in our scene change.
This is a good group. There's a lot of people who really know about this. So oh, Michael. Yes.
Brenda's going to be the score master.
Oh, Michio always gets everything right. She knows a lot about this. You gotta pull the chat up here. Keeps disappearing. Shamisen C, yes. There's our
This one. Oh. Great. Now let's try the one more quiz while we do some tuning.
Look at this. Yuko, you should be very proud. This is a very good group of participants here.
Yeah? How so?
Oh, they're all getting the answers right.
Oh, really? Yeah! Good job! Great job!
Set up and
Maybe my questions were too easy. I failed as a teacher.
Here are the answers.
Yeah? Okay. Okay, I think I am ready. All right, hi everyone again. I came downstairs here because there's not much room in my room upstairs to do the shamisen, and especially it might be easier for you to see this way, or maybe I'll move slightly on this side. Okay, is everybody hearing me okay? Give me thumbs up, please, if you do. Oh, thank you. So, here's shamisen, as you can see. And then I use this yubikake. It's like a little bit of cloth thing so that it will slide well here. And then I am not using the bachi because that's the kota and geisha tradition. The reason is that this kota music is performed in a tiny party room, small room. So, and then there is another room in the row. They are having parties and you don't want to bother them. And so that's why using the bachi produces a really loud sound. And so they just kind of got rid of it and they started using the finger tip, not the fingernail. And then that's supposed to be showing the iroke, the sexiness. Okay, so here it is. So let me sing this song first. And then please remember how I sung it because you're going to sing it too. And so as soon as I'm done, please turn on your microphone and so I can hear you sing. And let's see how it goes. But okay, here comes the Mizuno Debana. Stevenson, could you share that Mizuno Debana song for me? So the lyrics, I had it earlier, but it's about this lovers. She's basically saying that I love him, but I'm not supposed to be with him because of some circumstances or the social class is different, that you're not supposed to be in love with him, but I won't give it up. I'm still gonna follow you. I'm gonna be with you, and so forth. So it's about this love that's like, it's hard to accomplish love. And as the water flows. So using those kind of water and nature seen as a metaphor of their circumstance. Okay. And by the way, as you listened, at the kota, this ozashiki performance, it's polite that you encourage the performer to do well by saying tappuri, or meaning plenty. Let me hear you plenty. Or nippoichi, or number one in Japan. or 待ってました I've been waiting for you. And so those calls really adds a lot. And you have to do it at the very beginning, before the performer starts playing, or after she is done. So that's the custom. It's not like those Western music that you politely, clap at the, at the end. It's not like that. So it's more of the audience participating part. Okay, here it is. So that was the Mizu no Debana. So you learned it now, so you can sing it. So please turn on your microphone and let's sing it together. I'll sing it together. So ready? Steven, are you ready? Yeah, everybody ready? Hai, ikimasu. Hai. Mizu Hey, very good. Great job, everybody. Great job. So this concludes my lecture and performance part. And so, ありがとうございました。I hope you enjoyed. And should we move on to the Q&A session?